Hello everyone, it's Norel again. So you've noticed that today we have a very different topic because we are going to use English to film today's video, and it's about how we learned English. And as you know, I am from Taiwan, and Tim, my special guest, he's from
France.
Okay, so we are going to talk about, like, in these very different countries, how children, how teenagers, how people overall learn English, and also share our own English learning experiences. Let's dive in. Before we dive into the topic, we briefly just introduce ourselves about our learning English learning experiences. So, do you want to start?
Why not?
Talk about how you learned.
Do you want me to hold the mic? Or?
Yeah, of course.
I come from a very normal French family back in Paris, so I didn't have a previous real experience with the English the learning of English. I mean, like, I just learned it at school, like everyone else. So my parents are like very French, like no ascendancy, like English, no English at all, like just the basics. And I just have to really.
So your only exposure to English is your school.
Exactly, school. Well, maybe two weeks in England, like every 4 or 5 years.
Life.
So basically, that's it. And a small journey in the US when I was 7, so it doesn't really count because
nothing really counts.
Yeah.
So, but it's the situation in France will be a little bit different since all the movies and cartoons. They weren't being voice-overed.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's not like in Taipei, like you can choose between English version or maybe a Chinese version.
Yeah,
this is something at least you have the choices, right?
When I was a child, like, you didn't have the choice at all. But now you can see, like, for instance, when you go to see a movie, you have the choice between the official version, like the original version, and the French version. So you can still choose nowadays. But when I was a child and when I was studying English at school, you didn't have this choice. So basically you were like doomed to watch the French movie.
Exactly, just very limited exposure to English.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's the overall environment. I think in Taipei is overall the same because my parents, basically, they are still monolingual. Until now, my parents still cannot really tell. I mean, very, very basic words. They really don't know. They cannot really even tell, like, kangaroo from koala or, like, I mean, all these very basic terms for animals or everyday lifestyles, conversations. They have zero of that. So I am basically on my own to really pick up this language, but I think the environment itself, maybe compared with a French environment, we do have a little bit advantage, only a little bit. I mean, at least the atmosphere overall is like, people think, learning English is very important. They kind of force you to do it. I mean, of course, the results vary.
I do agree. Well, in the first place, I would say that you're right, but like, since I've been evolving in French, so now it's more and more important to learn English, and like, since we are becoming a startup nation, then English is becoming more of a need, of a must. Everyone needs to speak at least like decent English. But there is something I might add as well, is even though my parents are not bilingual, my father was still able to talk a pretty decent English and also a pretty decent...
When it is needed, right?
Yeah, exactly, when needed, and also German. So he was okay, but I didn't have the opportunity to talk in English with him because, well, it was not...
So it never occurred to him that he kind of should play this role in, like, teaching you a bit of English, or...
Maybe because he was just, like, able to communicate, but not to really teach anything really important. So basically, yeah.
I mean, that should be fine because all the children, they are able to learn English once they enroll in school. But
I can hold it in the middle. It's okay.
Right in the middle.
Yeah.
So this is about environmental things. And how about once we enroll in school?
That is a big subject. I would say, like, it really depends first on the teacher you got. Like some teacher,
Yes,
like, it's
that's
very
true.
random. It's very random. I had some really good teachers, but when you are teaching a class of 30 or more students,
That will be
then
entirely different situation.
exactly.
You know?
This is no way. You have no way to really teach or learn a language when you are like 30 or more. Like I think like a language class should be around like maximum 15 students, because you
Yes,
because
exactly.
language is also about interaction and
Yes.
practicing and saying, like talking in the language.
Yeah.
So basically, if you are not, if you don't have the time to practice, then you are just learning the grammar, and with the grammar you cannot really communicate. You can write,
Yes.
but you cannot communicate.
So I'm really curious, like in a French classroom, what is this English teacher actually doing?
Okay, most of the time it's like we learn a little bit of grammar. I'm talking about my time, right? Now, I'm not talking about now, because
now maybe it's a little bit better. Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know the different programs, but it was about like grammar, so like explanation about the grammar rules, different exercise to just like, you know, so exercise on this grammar rules, and maybe a little bit of when we were like correcting the exercises. This was like actually the time when we were trying to do some oral practicing, like.
So actually there was this choice. There was
Yes,
oral practice.
she was asking the student to like give the answer orally. So basically, they have to read.
Yeah, that's a very important
Yeah,
process. At
exactly.
least you try to do something.
Yeah.
To interact among like 30 students. It's
Yeah,
very,
so
very
basically it's like,
difficult.
you know, you are asking like every student one after another to give the answer for each exercises and so on. So I don't remember having a lot of like real oral interaction or activities, like workshops or whatsoever. It was not part of the program at the time, or maybe like with some teacher it was a case, but most of them wouldn't like use this, or didn't have the time to use these techniques. What about Taiwan?
Like in Taiwan, it also varies. I mean, from one school to another. Do you know that our governments actually have an amount of funds for certain numbers of schools to make them sort of bilingual? I mean, public school, because like we both attended public schools, right?
Yep.
Yep. So basically, we know that English learning resources in public schools are kind of limited. And the one, because I attended two elementary school here, the first one is just very traditional. You don't really have sort of English class back in my day. It's not mandatory actually. So I officially started learning English at the age of 9. But I started that not because of my school. Of course, it's because my mom forced me to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is quite common in Taiwan, I guess.
It's very common, and my mom is relatively like loose with me already. Like most of other parents back in my days, like which is like 10-ish years back then, they force their children to not really force, because when your children are much younger, you don't really force them. You just like register a school for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they go to bilingual kindergarten, which
I've
we
heard
don't
about
really
that, yeah.
find it necessary to attend. Like my mother really don't really trust like any private schools.
Okay.
She thinks it's a waste of money, so I attended all like public school basically.
Okay.
Yeah, so my elementary school, I didn't really enjoy this English learning resources. And when I was 9, actually, she found this teacher. Back in that day, you know, all these cram schools, all this after school, like in Asia, probably all of guys you know, like just after schools is quite a common thing.
Yeah,
Yes, it's very, very common.
I knew that.
Yes, yeah, I hear that. Apparently you do. And this is something that we do because she basically chose a teacher for me, and I went to this after school two times. I remember just 2 times per week. To learn English.
Okay.
That's actually not a lot.
Well,
No.
well, if you want to learn English, that's not a lot. But as a student, since you already have your schedule as a student, and you might have other extra activity, it starts to be a lot. I mean, I remember some students like having every day having 2 or 4 hours.
Asian
of extra
students,
activity.
they are just so occupied. All of their schedules just basically
I would
tight.
say like drowned and like several activities. So yeah.
Yes, exactly. But I wasn't that busy back in that days. I mean, the only class that I took was English.
Okay.
But, I wasn't that willing to. Once you were forced to do something, you just didn't want to conform to that. And so in the very beginning, I wasn't that interested. And I mean, that's the very detailed story itself. But basically, I learned my English outside of school. School didn't really provide me with anything, I should say. I mean, it's fine, but if you really want to achieve the levels of
let's say fluency.
Yeah, fluency. Not needless to say near native. I mean, just overall fluency. You cannot do that with school.
I do agree. Even though like my first part of school was in public school, and then I went to private school.
Then you went to private school.
Yeah, then I went to private school, but I didn't.
Did that change anything?
No, it didn't really make a difference. Like because we also had like large classes during the language, be it like German or English. We also had like a lot of students attending the classes. So basically, it was the same thing.
But you took Germans and English at the same time.
Yeah, that's what. Well, in France, you have to first when you are like 11, you have to first choose one language. So for me, it was
But
German.
I think it's like one language at a time.
No. Then when you turn like 13, you have to choose a second language, and then you are learning both language at the same time. So for me, it was German and English.
Just for me, like previously, what I did. Spanish and French at the same time, which is something that you better not try.
Well, I
mean, if you really insist on like achieving both, of course. I mean, now I still not really entirely give up on my Spanish.
Okay.
My Spanish is like almost non-existent right now. I can understand when someone say it. I can read. I mean, reading is my best.
Okay.
And for the rest, I will just reply in French.
Okay, well, that's okay because now you're like fully committed to French, so it's okay.
Yeah, so I cannot understand how can children do that. Of course, children, their learning pattern will be very different from that of adults because they are just like sponges. They kind of absorb. But 13 and 11, they are considered teenagers.
Yep.
So it's a very turbulent stage of their lives. I mean,
now you're talking about another subject, which is education and how to provide a good planning for education.
Yeah, but it's only in private school or in public school.
Oh no, it's
you are
everywhere.
Required.
In French, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Okay.
And you can, I think it's like about when you turn 15, you can choose a third language if you want to.
You can choose.
Yeah, it's optional.
It's
so I had some comrades who were choosing like to also learn Italian while I was learning Latin.
And you lost it already.
Of course, because Latin you don't use it unless you like read ancient books in Latin. I mean, like.
Then why did you choose Latin? I mean,
I didn't choose Latin.
Oh, you didn't choose it. Okay.
My parents asked me to just convince me to choose Latin.
Exactly. I mean, this is what parents do.
Well, they want
a student of mine, she also got to choose Latin because her mother said so.
Okay.
You know, this is very common in Asia. Why did you do that? Because my mother said so.
I know, but like most of the time, it's not an ill intention. They want you to like learn as much as you can to like prepare for life. They don't really realize that it's not going to like really be helpful. Actually, like.
It's still helpful to a certain extent, just not that helpful. Yes, exactly.
Not directly helpful for the job you want to do or the job you want to get. That's what I mean. But in terms of life experience, it's always like
it's fun.
Useful.
It's interesting. I mean, if you can kind of appreciate the beauties of Latin. I mean,
but I think at that time we were too young to really appreciate it. So.
Teenagers wouldn't. I mean, wouldn't. For them, it's just an extra burden to learn something now that they don't really want to.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah. So that's school days. So back in school days, did you have a lot of tests? Like in Asia, they are like students are always under this burdens of taking countless tests.
If I remember correctly, we had like 3 major tests for every subject, like so for English, German, or whatsoever. So at the end of every trimester, we had a test. Yep. But I would say like every month we also have like kind of smaller tests. Small tests. Yeah, smaller tests, just to check if we were like
just for evaluation.
Yeah, evaluation and just checking if we were like regularly.
We're talking about conversome. Actually, we mentioned that earlier, and
with the ego,
yes, also that like that. This is something that kind of holds us back when we learn English.
Yeah.
when we learn a foreign language. And how is it like in a French environment or in France overall?
I would say, well, first let's speak briefly about school. Comfort zone is a very important thing in French school because French are very well known to be very judgmental. So basically,
He's French and he admits that.
I do not have any problem admitting it. So, but yeah, no. When you are like actually trying to speak in English during the English lessons, you know that people are judging you. Even they are not like trying to do it consciously. They are unconsciously like
subconsciously.
Exactly,
they just want to do
subconsciously.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to judge you, and that has a link with another part that you want to talk about, which is the accent.
So you do care about accent?
Oh,
actually, all of you.
It's more like, not in a good way. It's more like if you try to reach a certain accent or to get rid of the French accent, which is a little bit like this. If I just like imitate it, yeah, exactly. But if you try to go out from this standard, then you are considered as someone who wants to brag about his accent or who is trying to look cool or whatsoever.
So what would be the worst, consequence? Got bullied or something like that?
Yeah, like people would just like talk about you like as
teasing
you and talk about you as a nosy brat or whatsoever. Like just like you're trying to like
show off
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, like it's not when you're already like a teenager, you're not very self-confident, and when you have like other people like trying to like lower yourself because you're trying to like improve your accent, then you won't like try to really improve this accent,
even though you are able to.
Like unless you are actually from a dual international family, yeah.
Then
and
you get
like
a pass for that.
Exactly,
yes.
because people think it's normal because you have like an English parent, so it's normal.
Yeah, it's because for me, for here, this is totally the opposite. If you speak English with a Taiwanese or Chinese accent, because here we still speak Mandarin, so as long as you are used to your mother tongue, can we say that like your muscles in your mouth are already used to this pronunciation of your mother tongue. So when you are speaking English, when you first learn it, you're trying to use whatever ways that you're already used to pronounce this foreign language, which kind of creates this foreign accent.
That is true.
Yeah, that's
same
correct.
in French. Like so many students are trying to use the Chinese way of pronouncing things.
Yes,
to speak
to
French.
pronounce French.
Yeah.
So here is totally the opposite to that in France, I think, because maybe we start learning English very, very early, and if you can speak English with an authentic accent, no matter it is more British or more American, but here American accent is still very, very prevalent, should I say. So if you can speak very close to that accent, people will regard you as someone who speaks English very fluently.
Okay.
Even though maybe your vocabulary bank is just so limited and you don't understand more than your peers. The only difference is, pretending is your accents. People still kind of respect you. But of course, we also get some negative consequences. Sometimes people say that you are just pretending to be, and they kind of look down on you as well. So here, people are all on the same direction to a better accent, to a more authentic accent. So I think in Asia, especially in Taiwan, China, Hong Kong, it is this case. But if it is in Japan, it's quite close to France.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's very interesting because in Asia, I think that people want to go forward to improve themselves, whereas in France, it's more like people want like
your peers are holding your back already,
exactly.
Right?
They want everyone to be at the same level. They don't want someone just to like. If there is something like someone like just burgeoning, that they won't accept actually the fact that he's like going more successful or whatsoever. But if there is someone like who is lacking, they will try to pull him in the group maybe.
Oh, so the other way.
Yeah,
yes.
the other way is
Yeah.
like, well, it really depends on the groups, of course, but
Schools, environment, everything.
Exactly. But
Yes,
no,
that's so
most of
true.
the time, French are quite jealous of like success. It's true. It's I don't know why. It's like a little bit in our education. I've really witnessed that, and I can experience it myself. When we see like someone very successful and who seems to have everything, we tend to be very jealous about it, and we are always looking for the small,
slightest mistake that this
or
person
default or
commits.
whatsoever. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
do you have any like personal experience with this accent thing? Because we're kind of grouping this comfort zones and accent thing together. I mean, they are very closely connected,
Yeah.
to be very honest, because if you feel such awareness of your own accent, of course, you kind of want to stick to your own comfort zone without being willing to speak to others or speak to a foreign teacher, etc. So do you have any experience, I mean, either like positive or negative, about this accent thing?
Well, I think when you really want to try to change yourself and to change the way you learn a language, that was the case for me. You just don't care about what people are thinking about it. When I tried to reach a better accent,
Yeah.
well, it was just because I wanted it and because I found that...
Back in school days, you mean?
No. But
Now.
now, yeah. So I thought I heard like several English actors speaking in English, UK English, and I found it so cool, so elegant that I just wanted to grab a little grasp of it. Like I know it's like
Yes.
it's almost like impossible to reach the full accent or whatsoever, but I just wanted to grasp a little bit of it. And this is because it was a goal set in my mind because I found it cool. I just wanted to do it for myself, and I didn't care about what people would think about it, that I was able to do so. And this is really linked to comfort zone and ego. It's like I just let off my ego. I wasn't even talking or thinking about my ego or comfort zone. I just
Yes.
wanted to try
You just want to try,
reach this
yes.
goal.
So that source of motivation is still originates from you yourself.
Exactly.
It's always about you yourself because no one expects me to speak English with whatever accent that you define me I'm speaking with.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my parents don't speak English, first of
Yeah.
all, and I went to public school, so most of the kids, of course they learn English, but they don't have such high expectations of every single one of you because they think it's pretty normal if you have mediocre or just a very normal Chinese accent. It should be fine. They are not that strict with you.
Okay.
Which is quite different from a private school. Yeah.
And that's why actually you told me that everyone you met before thought you were actually studied abroad because of your accent. And actually it was very funny every time you told them that, no, I never went like to study in the UK or US.
Yes, that's the thing because, but I always had this in mind. I always wanted to achieve what people call authentic. And I have to admit, when I was back in schools, the only accent that I looked up to was American accent. Because my first teacher, who was very proficient in teaching, even though she never studied abroad either,
Okay.
but her accent is very, very close to real American accent.
Which is very good.
Yes. I mean, she only stayed in UK for it, which is UK. It's very different. She's never studies in the US. She studies in UK for like 2 weeks, just like you did.
Yeah.
And her accent is still pretty much American accent. So I think when you were a kid, that's everything to you. The teacher that you admire speaking English,
Yeah.
this foreign language with this actual accent. So then you're looking up to her.
Yeah.
I mean, I spent like at least 6 years to 7 years, like very incessantly to achieve this accent until I met my second teacher, whose accent is 100% British.
Okay.
And I was basically fascinated with her accent, but I couldn't change it anymore. Yeah, but now I still think that my accent is still shifting. Like
Okay.
I always tell people because I used to have braces to fix my teeth. And I
Okay.
always think that accent is just like that because once you speak a foreign language, it's just like your teeth. Naturally, your teeth are not perfect, so you fix it with braces.
Yeah.
And we speak foreign language, we learn foreign language, and we have a goal I mean, the only difference is that you don't have a dentist. Yeah, just you have your goal in mind and you are fixing this accent, shaping it and molding it into the exact accent that you want, that you desire.
Yep.
And you have to maintain it just like once you take off the braces. You need that maintainer.
Yeah, that is true, because every time like you are a little bit tired or whatsoever, you hear that you can shift to your previous accent or whatsoever.
When I'm tired, I'm American. Yeah.
When I'm tired, I'm just French.
Yes, because you kind of just go back to the most comfortable ways of speaking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
so,
true. Yeah,
yes.
you won't like do as much efforts to try your best to get to the perfect accent you want to have, but that's quite normal. I mean, like whenever you are tired, like of course you're not going to put so much effort.
You're gonna process
Exactly.
all this information. Yeah, so
So another tip.
that's something. Yeah.
Just rest enough.
Just rest enough. Yes, exactly. Okay, so we gotta move on to little bit things. Okay, so any interesting phenomena in France about English learning? Like people use some like interesting tips, interesting ways, or interesting courses that are available in the market?
It's not about that. It's the interesting fact is with the new startup nation, it's not rare to hear people talking fully in French, but just like adding some very specific English words. So it's
Which
like
they had zero translation for that. So
most of the time, it's just like lazy translation. They don't want to use that. It's like a little bit like in Taiwan actually. Like they just when they're talking in Chinese, speaking in Chinese, and then suddenly like putting a management into the sentence, Chinese sentence. So it's basically the same in France. And we have a lot of humorists who are actually like mocking this, because sometimes some business discussion can really sound really weird because it's a mix of French.
It's a mix of everything.
Yeah, a mix of French and English business words, and it doesn't really make sense in French. Sorry. So basically, this is a very interesting phenomenon, as you call it, because you can have like someone talking to you, and you're like, really, he's not making any efforts to speak in French. He's just like talking like the business or like. Yeah.
So I think this happens everywhere, as long as it is not English-speaking nation. Because in Taiwan, especially in this in an office, where I temporarily like work before, I could never understand that, because they will use so many words. I mean, for example, in English we say confirm. I'm going to confirm this with you.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of Taiwanese, they cannot pronounce this word.
So what do they say?
So they say something closer to conform.
Conform, okay.
But it's still not conform. They say conform, something like that.
Oh, it's a little mix.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of a mix of
everyone
Chinese
says
and
that.
Okay.
And in the beginning, I didn't even know what they are trying to say.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about? And they like to use the word survey as a verb. But
survey, like it's a mix of.
Yes, they use survey and they use it kind of like research.
Okay.
For example, you gotta do a bit of research on something, and they will say, in the middle of a Chinese sentence, you have to survey something.
Okay.
But which is not right. Which is not right, because they think that, okay, in Chinese translation, maybe it's about the same. You know, Chinese is not as precise when it comes to a lot of terms or usage. I mean, Chinese itself. So sometimes people just find a direct translation for that. Okay, let's talk a little bit. Let's sum up the tips that we used, no matter it's back in our school days or even until now. Yeah. So,
do you want to start?
Yeah, of course. Some of the tips, I mean, the very first one, actually we mentioned already, just don't stay in your comfort zone. That's what I consider a tip. Yes.
But that is true,
Yeah, everyone knows that, but of course it's very difficult to actually put it into practice.
Yeah.
And the second thing is that I think imagination does help me a lot along the way, because every time, for example, when I watch a movie, if I really love this actor or actress, I mean, especially his or her way of talking, I would first of all imitate. I mean, imitate is a very good thing. And then I even imagine myself in the exact same scenario or scene.
Okay.
Like every time when I talk about something, maybe I pick it up from Harry Potter. I will redo that scene again. Yes, Tim knows that so well because I'm kind of a Potterhead. I cannot stop myself from doing this. But I think it does work. Because every time, maybe I learned this word from this movie. And every time I use this word, I will recall the exact same scene.
Oh, it means that is a very good way because it's like it's pairing a memory with several vocabulary or use. So basically,
actors and also the sounds and everything.
It's recognized as to be one of the most efficient way to remember, actually, like linking to imagination or images. Yes. So this is very important. Yes. If you can do that, it's very important. If you cannot, then find another way.
So I always consider this is has something to do with imagination.
Yeah.
Because you actually need to imagine yourself being either like Professor McGonagall or Dumbledore or anyone, because this is something that I find very interesting. So, of course, I don't have to push myself to do it. Yeah, this is a natural way.
If you have imagination, you have no boundaries.
Yes,
but if you have no imagination, or if you limitate your imagination, you put yourself some boundaries, some limits, and so I think this is also linked to that.
Yes, and I even create future scenario. For example, I imagine myself using this term or phrase in a certain future scenarios in my life, which might not or might happen. Okay. Nobody knows.
Okay.
This is kind of weird, I know, but I've never denied that I'm a weird person. I mean,
but actually, if it works for you, actually, one of the tips I would like to say is it's a very basic tip, but you have to find what's worked best for you. It's not there is no already approved method because everyone is different and everyone relationship with the language is different, so it really depends what's worked best for you. For some people it's just hearing, for some people it's imitating, for some people it's looking or watching, or for some people it's living abroad, for other people like yourself it's just going to immerse yourself into the English culture without being in the country itself. So it really depends on the person, and you don't have to force yourself to find it. You have just to try things because you have to be curious. Experiment. So basically, life is about experiments. So basically, you have to experiment things. But it's very hard sometimes to put into practice because, again, confusion is actually
experimentation involves risks.
So
a lot of people they hate risks
because they don't want to go out from their comfort zone. And I mean, it's natural. We like comfort, and we like no risk at all. So zero risk is
exactly.
So basically, it's everyone is concerned about this issue, but you have to give it a try, I think.
Yeah, that's true. So imagination, one for me, and
movies definitely.
And movies,
movies definitely.
But how did you actually watch those movies? With subtitles? Without?
At first, when I was really not confident, I started by watching in French with English subtitles. Then I switched to English with French subtitles.
But have you ever tried English subtitles?
And then I came to English language with English subtitles. And then after I just tried to find without any subtitles. But sometimes some actors have a very specific way to talk, so you still need the subtitle, because either way you without it you just won't understand what they are talking about. Sometimes.
That's so true.
But it's fine. Having English version with English subtitle is still very fine because you are still hearing the English language and you are just checking if you just understand it correctly or if you really heard the right word with the subtitles. So basically, I think it's still fine.
I mean, until now, when I watch movies, I still use English subtitles.
Okay. It's quite rare, actually, not to have any subtitles, but
it's something that I'm obsessed with.
Okay.
Because sometimes I even check whether they write the correct subtitles.
Okay,
but it's something that to test you, because to test your listening.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. You don't just blindly believe in the subtitles they offer you.
Yeah.
Yes, because you know how those people earn money from subtitles, which my friend used to do this kind of job before.
Okay.
She told me. The faster you finish one, the more money you earn. So basically, zero quality. This is what she told me. So if you can finish one episode of a series or whatever as fast as you can, then if you can finish 5 within 1 hour, then of course you earn 5 episodes of money, which is not really good for all these audience because they might not be able to really understand what they're trying to say because sometimes people just slacking off when they're doing the subtitle things.
Or just like they're just going to start to distrust this series or whatever because they are using a bad quality translation.
So movies, another one. How about podcast?
Well, I think it really is more an option because I think not everyone likes to listen to podcasts.
Right? So you are more of a visual person.
Yeah,
you need
definitely.
something visual, yes.
For me, like listening is more about music, for instance.
Yes. So you do listen to English songs.
Yeah, really. But I'm more about an instrumental musical person, so I'm not
also
really
without lyrics.
Yeah. Unless it's like opera, because I think this like the voice is almost like an instrument when you are singing opera. But most of the regular songs, unless they are I find them very good, I'm not really listening to them. And most of the time, this is very interesting because I'm not really listening to the lyrics.
You are listening to the melody itself.
Exactly.
Yes, a lot of people are like that. I mean, sometimes you like one song, it's only because of the melody.
Exactly.
Yes, it could be in any foreign language, and you don't understand a word of that.
Exactly, but it doesn't care at all about that.
But
for me.
it's very funny because when I was back in school, actually, my burgeoning interest, one of the reasons for my burgeoning interest for English is because I started to listen to songs of Avril Lavigne.
Okay.
Yes, a Canadian singer.
Yeah.
And because she released her first album when I was like 11 or 12, I think. So that's the very, very first foreign, English-speaking singer that I listened to.
Okay.
And I started my very first Disney, it's not really Disney Channel, what is it? A Disney movie or Disney series.
Okay.
Yeah, Disney movies, of course, we watched that a lot when we were kids, when we were children.
Yeah.
But, most of the time without much content, without much nutritional, educational content. Yeah, but I started to watch, back at that time, there was one called Lizzie McGuire. Probably you wouldn't know. The leading actress is Hilary Duff.
Okay.
She's American, and she released like a couple of albums afterwards. But actually, Lizzie McGuire is just very, very ordinary Disney kind of junior high school kind of comedy.
Okay.
I watch it, partially because I just want to learn English.
Okay.
I had no idea. Every Friday, I would just sit in front of the TV, and I would even take one piece of paper and pen to write down whatever I didn't understand.
You were very dedicated then.
Yeah, I'm very, very dedicated. I mean, if I can just like share a fractions of my dedication to math, my math would be entirely different, but I know I just cannot. Yeah, so once you just you are very dedicated or committed to something, you just stay like that.
Yeah. It's just about interest as well.
Yeah, it's just about interest, and I have very specific interest and passion for certain things.
Okay.
So for me, if I dislike something, I just cannot do it. Never.
Yeah, but that's quite human, I guess. It's the same for me. But yeah, so basically, I would really confirm that I totally agree with the song thing about when it comes to learning English, because I have some friends or even like ancient colleagues who actually used ex-colleagues, who actually used to listen to a lot of English music, and actually they really thought it was helping them to improve their English.
Because it's about the fluency. They kind of somehow connect all of the words and phrases together.
Yep.
Because it's something, just the same idea. I'm listening to French songs right now, and French songs are quite difficult. Compared with, because French itself is difficult.
And a lot of French songs, it really depends to which singer you are listening to, but a lot of French songs also are like very based on the lyrics themselves more than the melody, and the melody is just like going with the lyrics.
Yes,
so it's a text song. Those are text songs, and that's what it might be a little bit more difficult. Again, it depends on which singer we are talking about. But
Exactly. Okay, last thing last. So what is the best thing or a benefit that bilingualism has brought you?
definitely being able to live abroad. definitely.
So you think without this language capability, it's no way for you to live abroad?
Well, it's way more difficult anyway. So basically, like your life is more like hell when you don't really speak any language, like foreign language, and you want to live abroad, because everything is way much complicated. So yeah, basically it's like it helped me to live abroad, to work abroad, and to meet a lot of different people as well, because it also limits your encounters with new people. Like you will never be able to meet
speak one language.
Exactly, you will never be able to meet like as much people as when you are talking only your mother tongue. And I'm not like saying like internationalism is like the best thing ever, but it sure helps you to build yourself.
Yes, just basically one enjoys more possibilities
Exactly.
in life. Yeah, for me it's kind of the same, but because since I haven't worked abroad yet, so now what I'm trying to say is bilingualism. I always it's very weird to say so, but I've always been so grateful to myself for pushing myself to become a bilingual, because I always know that I have so many possibilities outside of here.
Yeah.
And every time you shift from one language to another, for some people I know, maybe sometimes they do feel tired because it's actually a tiring process.
Yep.
But actually I enjoy that a lot, because sometimes when you shift from one language to another, you're also changing your mood, your personality.
I can relate to that as well. So.
Yes, because and I gain a lot of different possibilities. Some of the collaborations, they are from foreign countries, which without English I would never been able to do it. So it's about perspectives. I think for me mostly it's about perspective. Sometimes I read in English, I read in Chinese, and then I realize that even though they are both on the same topic, they are from entirely different perspectives.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, that's also true. So I think, and also flexibility.
Yeah.
If you're bilingual or you're a polyglot, you are able to be more flexible with changes in life, because you already, from one language to another, it's quite a big change.
Yep.
Yeah,
totally, so the way of seeing things is quite different. I've experienced it in Taiwan many times, so I can say I can relate to that as well.
Yes, just changing. Okay, so anyway, that's our video for today. It's a very long video, and if you are polyglot or you are monolingual, still learning a foreign language, or no matter who you are, if you're interested, please leave a comment below to talk about your own personal stories and share your own experiences working abroad or studying abroad. And let's see you next time.
Bye. Is it for YouTube as well or podcasts?